As the coronavirus marches on across the world, the number of cases is on the rise. Let's start off with Europe. Spain's Equality Minister Irene Montero has tested positive for the disease. She has now been quarantined along with her partner, the country's Deputy Prime Minister, Pablo Iglesias. Montero was also part of the Women's Day protest on the 8th of March. This demonstration was attended by thousands. People in Spain are staying indoors as the number of cases crosses the 2,000 mark. People also rush to supermarkets to stock up essentials before the situation worsens. The number of pedestrians on the streets of Madrid has come down significantly. A health ministry official has said that the current situation in Spain is extremely complicated as it faces a shortage of basic medical supplies.
La verdad que sí, lo vamos notando. Los clientes dejan de venir, hay menos clientela. Suelen venir por la mañana y por la tarde. Luego por la noche ya se nota que la gente se queda en sus casas y hay menos gente. La gente tiene miedo, temor. Las tiendas por aquí quedan sin género a la hora de comprar.
Las preocupaciones son en tanto en cuanto vemos la situación que está sucediendo igual en Italia. Entonces, si vamos a llegar a esos extremos, es mejor prevenir que curar. Entonces, si puedo evitar contagiarme o si yo lo tuviese contagiar a otros, pues supongo que es mejor.
Poland has now reported its first death due to coronavirus. Meanwhile, schools in Ireland will remain shut from Friday. European Union leaders have slammed the United States, meanwhile, for imposing a unilateral travel ban. The EU has said that coronavirus is a global crisis, not limited to any continent, and it requires cooperation rather than unilateral action. In a bid to combat the spread of the disease, the US President Donald Trump announced a 30-day travel ban on Europe. He called the measure strong but necessary. And now the EU has warned against possible economic disruption that Trump's travel ban is likely to cause. Saudi Arabia, meanwhile, has put a temporary ban on all travel to and from Europe. Citizens of Saudi Arabia who are currently in Europe have 72 hours to return to their kingdom. And our correspondent Benji Ayer is now joining us live from London. Benji, give us a better sense of what the situation is looking like on the ground and the measures that have been put in place, with the Prime Minister also saying that the situation is under control, but at the same time refuses to be tested for the disease.
That's right. I mean, in the UK specifically, Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, is almost imminently about to give a press conference. Well, he'll give further details as to what sort of measures will take place in Britain. Currently, the UK is in the contain phase, but it is thought that within coming hours or days, Britain will move to the delay phase. And with this comes a number of different potential measures. Not all of them may necessarily be implemented immediately, but over time it's thought there could be such things as school closures or banning sort of large gatherings at football stadiums or in film screenings at cinemas. It's all about timing, though, really. The scientific evidence suggests that bringing in all these different measures too early may not be effective. Leaving it too late means missing the boat entirely. And there's also a suggestion from the Prime Minister that in fact he's willing to let the population get the virus. Of course, he wants to delay it so that the worst cases can be seen to and the healthcare system is not overstretched. But nonetheless, I think there's a resignation that this virus cannot be contained any longer. It is a global pandemic officially, and therefore it's going to have to be something that we simply get used to. But the measures in other European countries have been quite drastic. In Italy, we know where the situation is of course much worse, that there's been a quarantine across the whole entire nation. And in Ireland, which neighbours the United Kingdom, even though there's only been one death there, the leader of that country, Leo Varadkar, has already announced that there will be these closures to schools and to childcare services, so on and so forth. And therefore, there is pressure on the British government to take greater action when that press conference does take place.
Right, stay with me, Benji. Let me just come back to you after giving our viewers a better picture of what things are looking like in Italy. It is the worst hit country after China now, with over 800 deaths and 12,500 confirmed cases. As the country grapples with a complete lockdown, Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte has announced that Italy will shut all its shops. All shops, except food stores and pharmacies, will be shut across the country. Conte also said bars, restaurants and non-essential company departments would also remain shut. The restrictions will be in place from today till the 25th of March.
L'Italia rimarrà sempre una zona unica, l'Italia protetta, ma ora disponiamo anche la chiusura di tutte le attività commerciali, di vendita al dettaglio, ad eccezione dei negozi di generi alimentari, di prima necessità, delle farmacie e delle parafarmacie. Nessuna corsa, attenzione, non è necessario fare nessuna corsa quindi per acquistare cibo nei supermercati.
The Prime Minister has also said that any impact of the tightened restrictions on the rate of new cases would take a couple of weeks to be seen. Under the latest measures, trains and urban public transport services will remain open. Services considered essential such as mechanics, petrol stations, plumbers will also be operational. However, such measures will take a heavy toll on Italy's economy. Conte had earlier announced that he would ramp up spending to deal with the economic blow. The centre has allocated $28.3 billion to support families and firms. Part of the government's cash injection is meant to help small businesses. The government will also use money for an emerging plan to get families to temporarily suspend some mortgage and social tax payments. However, the extra spending means that Italy's 2020 budget deficit is certain to climb above 3% of the national output, which is the ceiling set by the European Union rules. Amid the strict travel bans from Italy, Russia and Slovenia became the latest countries to curb travel from the country. Meanwhile, the entire country continues to be in a state of lockdown. The situation in Italy is fast resembling what the situation in China was in February. The northern province of Lombardy has been struggling to cope with the crisis. Hospital beds are reportedly running out and there is a shortage of medical equipment and staff. Streets across the country lie deserted. Sports schedules have also been wrecked. These pictures from Milan speak for themselves. And going back across now to our correspondent Benji, like we were discussing, in sharp contrast, the measures that have been taken by countries across Europe, Benji, have been talked about, have been dominating headlines. Italy, of course, has been struggling to cope with the crisis, and the economic loss is something that is being calculated, and the Prime Minister already has spoken about it in a lot of detail.
Yes, the situation in Italy is really quite concerning. It started just in the northern part of that country. The area was put on lockdown, a place called the Lombardy region. A few days ago, it was announced that the whole country would be part of that red zone. It means that movement is heavily restricted unless it's really needed for essential travel. And also, it's extremely difficult to access lots of different services. Shops remain closed, besides, as you say, pharmacies and other kind of raw essentials. There's also a real lack of certainty, I should say, as to when these measures will end in Italy. And there's still a lot to be decided about border closures. Currently, if you're in Italy, you can still move to many other parts of the European Union. Of course, some people are too unwell to do so, but that still remains a possibility. And so Europe is really trying to act together on this one. But a lot of their policies have been sort of shunted, perhaps, by action taken by the US President Donald Trump, who shocked the entire continent, to say the very least, with his announcement that he won't be taking any visitors from the whole of Europe besides the UK and Ireland. And there's been a real disapproval amongst European nations at that reaction. They feel that actually the US should work alongside them rather than just shut them off. And so I think the general attitude is to try and make sure that that peak of the coronavirus is not reached now. It's pushed forward, it's delayed, and the people who really are most vulnerable, those especially who are elderly, can be seen to.
We're going to leave it there for the moment. Benji, appreciate very much joining us with those details.